Hi, this is Dean Beck at the 2015 Pride Cup. Here in the Yarra Valley, we are at the Yarra Glen Recreational Reserve. It's had a $600,000 refurbish just for this day, and the netball club and the football club will be playing for the Pride Cup, a treasured trophy that celebrates inclusion and diversity in sport. We're joined now by Ellie McLean. She is not only a basketballer, but she's also Brock McLean's sister. Ellie, you're here as the netball ambassador for the Pride Cup 2015. How did the netballers go?
I don't know.
What sort of ambassador are you?
I actually got caught up talking to the president of Yarra Glen, so I do apologise, but...
Now, were you here last year?
No, I wasn't.
So
here.
What is it like for you to be here today?
I was blown away. Driving in down that driveway with the flag blowing in the wind, it was beautiful. Seeing the 50-metre line painted and seeing the incredible support, and you can just tell how much effort everyone's gone into making today a successful day. So
now, I believe you had your own little attempt at a Pride Cup in basketball.
Yes.
Tell us about that experience.
Yes, when I played for Craigieburn last year, there was 5 of us on a committee last year who held a Pride round. It wasn't as successful as what today is, but I think it's still hats off to Craigieburn who really pushed the idea of having a Pride round to promote, the inclusive sport and things like that. So,
what is basketball like on the radar of the homophobia scale, if you like?
Well, to be honest, I haven't experienced any homophobia since I've been playing. I've been playing for many, many years. I think it tends to be a little bit more inclusive, but there still isn't a spectrum like there is with the AFL really pushing towards the anti-homophobia in sport.
You've got a lot of work to do, though.
Absolutely, yes, exactly.
Now, I'm told that you held back coming out to your brother because of his AFL career. Mm-hmm. You've clearly got over that,
yes.
But those sorts of third-party impacts that this sort of homophobia in the code perpetuates, it's tough for everybody. I mean, it had no direct effect on him, and yet you still held back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you are coming out, you're struggling with who you are, you're struggling with how your family's going to cope, and then when you've got a brother, or whether it be a mum or a dad or someone that is in the spotlight and held up as a role model, you do tend to worry how that's going to affect them as well. So I didn't want him to cop anything for something that was out of his control. So in hindsight, it was very ridiculous, but at the time it was a real struggle for me to deal with.
And a real issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the experience like for you to talk to Jill Stark and go through that process, I guess, of not only going public about it, but putting it right out there and shining a light on the issue?
Yeah, I think people need to realise that this issue is a lot bigger than any individual. So I'm willing to put myself in that spotlight for the greater cause of everything, because I know that if I can help one other person that's struggling the same way that I was, then it's going to be a lot more beneficial. I was blown away by how supportive Brock was and how much of an impact still to this day that he is having on the LGBTI community in pushing for no homophobia in sport. So
it's been wonderful to have him as someone who, as an ally, can create the change, and he's doing tremendous work. I know your experience at high school was a very different one to mine.
Yep.
You sailed through as an elite athlete. I went into art classes and hid away from phys ed, mainly because I knew that I wasn't going to be welcome, and that I would cop it. We've got to stop that in our schools, don't you think?
Absolutely. It really does start from young kids. The generations that's coming through now really have a lot of potential to make the world a more inclusive place. So if we can reach out to the younger kids through role models such as Brock and through Jason Ball and Shawn Tanner, if we can start educating the younger kids, the younger generation, then in 10 years' time, no one's going to be worried about how they're going to be perceived in the locker room. So,
Ellie McLean, thanks for joining us here on Ben TV,
me.
And thanks for being a part of Pride Cup 2015.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Not only is Brock McLean a great footy player, but he's also an athlete ally, and he is the great supporter of Pride Cup. He was here last year, he's here again this year for 2015. Brock, welcome.
Thanks, Dean. Good to see you again, mate.
Brock, we've come a long way since you decided to be the first player in the AFL to stand beside Jason Ball and make a stand against homophobia. The results that came out recently in the out on the field study indicate that we have so much more to do. And I've got to say I was a little bit thrown off centre from those results because they were so damning. They were so extensive.
I was disappointed in the results, but at the same time I wasn't that surprised. And sort of reasons for that is we still don't have a gay AFL footballer, and you know that just speaks volumes in itself. That no one's comfortable enough in themselves to out themselves, like while they're playing football. And you know, people might say there might not be a gay AFL football. Well, statistics say 1 in 6 or 1 in 7. So it's 800 football players. You know, do the math. Like I was pretty good at math at school. That says there are a few. So still got a long way to go. But the more people that get involved, the more events like this that we have, the more the ball starts to get rolling and the more people get behind it, and then slowly but surely we start to change perception, when we start to see change in terms of the anti-homophobia message.
There are some people that would criticise something like today as being tokenistic. I'd suggest that it's certainly not, and that it's backed up with education and information to ensure that it gets cut through all the way throughout a club. What are your thoughts?
In my eyes, racism and homophobia are the same thing. The only difference is when someone racially vilifies someone, you can actually see the victim. Whereas someone uses a homophobic slur on the football field or in the crowd or something like that, because there isn't a gay player, there's actually no visible victim. But there might be a 14, 15-year-old boy in the crowd who's hiding his sexuality, who may be thinking about coming out.
Or your teammate beside him.
Exactly. And he hears that and he says, you know what? I don't want to be vilified like that. You know what? I'm going to stay in the closet. And I'm going to put more mental strain on myself, and I'm going to hide who I really am, and which does nothing for that person's mental state or for their well-being. And
it does nothing for the game. Surely those people cannot perform at their best if they're living in that space.
And this is where Athlete Allies message comes strongly into it, that we want people to be able to be themselves, and if they are able to be themselves, whether they're gay, straight, whatever it is, they're going to perform at a higher level. And if they're able to perform at a higher level, the team performs at a higher level because they're able to perform at their best. So we want to create that safe environment where people feel safe enough to come out and be themselves, and in turn, the team benefits from it as well.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and let's hope they win, but more importantly, continue the good work in this space. It's great.
Cheers, mate. Always a pleasure.
Victoria's private schools have a long history of sporting excellence, and one of the captains of the footy teams of one of those private schools is Shawn Tanner. He joins us on Ben TV. Shawn, tell us about your team and its background and your background with it.
So my team's Penleigh Essendon Grammar School, Old Boys, so the Pegs Footy Club. I went to the school, Penleigh and Essendon Grammar, for year 11 and 12. Very, very heavily footy-focused school, and the Old Boys are just, the next gestation of that.
There are a long tradition of private schools and football in this state. It's something a bit foreign to me, I've got to admit, but I know it's very much entrenched. I can only imagine that with that entrenchment of culture comes a lot of homophobia. Tell us your experience of it.
So my experience, as I mentioned earlier today, was because I don't fit what society says as the stereotypical gay person. Not a lot of people knew, or no one really knew that I was gay. So the homophobia level to me was more what I call casual homophobia. The words, poof and that's so gay used in a negative context around me really impacted me, because I always thought that, okay, if they're saying that about a gay person, it means they don't really respect gay people. If they don't respect gay people and I came out to them, then they're not going to respect me. My whole relationship with them will change. Yeah. And when in that negative sort of that mental mindset, it's very, very tough.
How did you then become captain of the team? I mean, you must have really hit it well.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to play some good footy early on in my career. So I won a couple of best and fairest my first couple of years of senior footy, and from that sort of stemmed, just a respect around the playing group. That okay, he's a good player. I'm generally okay with speaking in front of crowds and talking to people, so I come off as quite confident. So they say, okay, well, you're good at representing our club, and that's, I guess, how I sort of kind of.
Confidence can be a beautiful mask sometimes, can't it?
Very true. Very true. You pull me apart in one sentence.
As people who use microphones know all too well.
Very much so.
So getting through that means a lot of work personally.
Yeah. So it's tough earlier on. So the reason I joined Jason as an ambassador with Beyond Blues because I love the work they do, but also because I had a personal history with mental illnesses and depression and things like that. Unfortunately for myself, I didn't have the education that's around at the moment. So back then I didn't get any formal treatment or formal diagnosis of mental health. So I really went through it by myself when I shouldn't have. And, you know...
As all too many people do.
100%. Yeah, that's an all too common story. And, you know, the message that I send through my talks with Beyond Blue now, you know, seek help early. Even if you don't want to seek help to a family or a friend.
No shame in it?
There's no shame in it. Yeah. Having a mental health illness is fine, and they're very treatable if you get onto them early enough, that kind of thing. And that's where sort of my story stemmed from.
So, Shawn, you're coming out to your team. How did you go about doing that? It must have been a hell of a time.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I'd come out to my family, and I thought, okay, well, so my family know, my cousins know, what's the next best thing? I have to start talking to my friends, and a lot of my friends play at Pegs as well. And I spoke to Rob, who's one of my best mates, and we were, as funny enough, we were coming home from a night out drunk at McDonald's, and we were just in a booth, and I just said, you know, something I've been wanting to tell you for a while. You know, Rob, I'm gay. And he just went, cool.
Did he expect anything?
No, not really. He goes, look, I'm surprised.
Right.
I won't lie. But,
yep.
Mate, he goes, you've been my best mate for 5 years, and that's not going to change. And I spoke to him about my fear for coming out to the club, and he said, mate, don't be ridiculous. You know, you're well loved by the players. You're the captain. You're a fantastic leader at the club. They're not going to change. You've got you're crazy for thinking it's going to be any different.
And it's not like you're a different person last week than you are this week.
100%. That's the sort of thing, and that's the almost verbatim what he said. You know, I hold no difference of opinion to you now than I did at the start of the night.
Did everyone feel that way?
It was not even a negative story towards it. One of my friends I don't speak to as much as I used to, but I mean that could be everyone grows up, he has kids now, so it just happens with life, I think.
Yeah. Well, you're an inspiration to many. It's great to see another face and another voice in the footy space doing great work. So,
fantastic.
Shawn, thanks for joining us today on
Thank
Bet.
you very much, Dean. Much appreciated.
Kate Jenkins is Victoria's Equal Opportunity and Human Rights Commissioner, and she joins us on Bent TV here at the 2015 Pride Cup. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Dean.
It's your second year to the Pride Cup. Bigger
is.
and better this year than it was last year. It's a good thing.
Absolutely, a really exciting thing, and I think the momentum's building, so I'm really hopeful that attitudes will change with that.
Now, the Commission's been doing a lot of work in sport for some time with Fair Go Sports. Tell us how that's evolving.
So we're doing Fair Go Sports both in a number of codes like hockey and basketball, cycling, soccer. We're also doing work in schools, which is really exciting. And for today, we did the training for the different teams on how they can understand and support building a more inclusive sporting team.
We heard earlier that that's a really important component to a day like today. How much is involved with something like that?
So, you know, for quite a small investment, we can really change and improve attitudes. Our team that worked with the sporting clubs educated them on an interesting model. So they taught about edit, educate, echo, which is a model where they taught how to respond to when things are happening. So the edit is just when you can speak up and say, no, you shouldn't say that. Yeah. Educate is to really be saying, and do you know the consequence of you doing that is this, and echo is really to support others when they're speaking up. So really simple tools that help people who want to make a change learn how to do that.
Before any of that connects, though, you've got to know why homophobia is so damaging to a society on the whole. And that's kind of where we're at with a lot of this, is getting that message out, that it's not always about the individual. It reflects directly on us as a community and as a world.
I absolutely agree. And the other thing we were doing with that education is to educate on what are the consequences, what's the damage to individuals and really to our community, and then what are the benefits of diversity. So
and there are huge benefits.
Great benefits, and really at the base level it's letting people perform to their best, and that's what we all want to do, and it's pretty tragic to think that some people don't get that chance.
And yet we've lived with it for so long.
Absolutely, and from my role, it's been unlawful for a fair while, but attitudes don't seem to keep up with the law change, but I'm hoping there is a bit of winds of change now.
I've got a theory that laws are only half of the equation, and that it's the storytelling behind why those laws are required and the personal impact of why those changes are needed that is driving the cultural change. What is it that we're lacking in that space, do you think, in this country? Because we're pretty good at drafting new laws and implementing those when we need to. We're not good at driving the cultural change required quick enough, I don't think.
I agree. I'm equally impatient. I'm a lawyer, but I don't believe the laws fix too much. They just sort of set the rules.
And they're useless unless they're policed, I guess.
That's right, implemented. I think what we're learning now is that change requires every single person to change. And I think the narrative has been this is up to an individual person. If you do something, then that will make a difference. But actually, no, it's everyone. So if I think about the role I'm in, a lot of what I think I've learnt is that it is about everyone's small kind of behaviours and attitudes that makes the difference, not about a law and what you need to do or one person needs to do. It's not just about a single person, it's about everyone.
Now, you're going to get a new colleague working alongside you shortly with the initiation of by the Minister for Equality, a Commissioner for Equality. Is that going to lighten your load, do you think? Or
I think that's going to create a whole lot more momentum in the best possible way. So I don't think it will lighten my load, but I think it will get the action and the movement that we've been waiting for. I think it will continue that momentum.
Well, we're very fortunate to have you doing the great work that you do, and thank you very much for joining us on Bed TV.
Thanks, Dean.
Hello, and we'd just like to know who you are, what your club is, how long it's been around, and how it's grown over those years.
Sure. Well, my name's Tim Hewitson, and this is
Diney Houseman.
And we're from the Melbourne Argonauts Rowing Club, which was established back in 2001, so this is our 14th year. And the purpose of the club is to provide a safe and welcoming and friendly environment for LGBTI community members to try out the sport of rowing and have lots of fun along the way.
Yeah, and so who does the club actually cater for then?
Pretty much anybody that wants to join. So predominantly our members are people from Melbourne's gay and lesbian community. A lot of our members are from the area of Council of Port Phillip, which is where our club is based, but we have people from all over Melbourne, and we have gay and straight members.
All right, Tim, so how does a person's level of ability for rowing affect their ability to join? Do you need to be able to row to be part of the club?
Well, that's a great question. I actually had never rowed in my life when I joined the club all those years ago. And I joined because I'd see these guys rowing down Albert Park Lake and thought that looks like fun. And next thing I knew, I found myself bringing the Argonauts up and did the Learn to Row course that the Argonauts offer. So for me, as a complete non-rower, I was able to learn the basics of rowing with the Argonauts and then take part in crews and gradually develop my skills in the environment that the Argonauts offers. So it can be for people who have never rowed before as well as those who have rowed before.
Okay, so you run Learn to Row days a couple of times a year, is that right?
So we generally have 3 Learn to Row courses a year, usually in the second half of the year. They consist of a weekend of training, and then you have a 4-week membership after that where we encourage you to come down and keep on giving it a go. And after that, join the club and keep training with us.
All right. Well, what if I wanted to join the club but I actually wasn't too interested in rowing? Could I, do another role in the club?
Well, I suppose you could, because we're always looking for people who can help. It's a busy job running a rowing club, but maybe those in that situation, maybe you'd be comfortable with the social rowing aspects of it, because not everyone competes. Some people actually become rowers, but they just do our social rowing stream, which is a Saturday morning and a Tuesday night, and it's a sort of a fun rowing thing. And many of those people contribute in other ways to the club as well, because there's always things to do running a rowing club.
So you have got like a competitive and a social stream, which a lot of the clubs do have to not contend with, but just manage those different motivations for different members, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And so if I was, I came to your Learn to Row Day and I'm a bit interested, but I'm still a bit nervous, do you have people within the club that kind of mentor the newer players,
Very
rowers?
much, yep, very much so. We actually have various streams. We have rowing for competition, rowing to win, social...
Rowing to win, I like to say.
social rowing and all that sort of thing, and there's a couple of key people in the club. But the other thing too is that we don't actually require everyone to compete, as I said. But for me, my experience was always, I had a couple of coaches in the early days who were very, very supportive, and I was able to learn how to row. But I have to say, the first time I did a regatta, I was terrified, and I almost didn't do it because I was so scared. But once I'd done one, it was like, oh wow, this is fantastic, and just take the plunge and have a go. Not in the water, just in the boat.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the fear of wearing those little zooty outfits too.
Oh, well, aren't they beautiful? Can't you see them over there? They're just lovely, okay? Some people are a bit scared initially, but I seem to have no trouble anymore. Neither does Dani, I know.
Yeah, I think when you're surrounded by a whole group of people all wearing the same outfit, it doesn't matter anymore.
Now, Dani, we heard before why Tim joined the club. Why did you join the club, and what has it meant to you being a member of the Argonauts?
I joined the club having rowed for a year in high school many, many years ago, and had spent a lot of time thinking about how much I'd enjoyed it and wanting to get back into the sport again. So I contacted the club and was able to join up straight away as a member because I'd been assessed as being able to row. And it was just great getting back into the sport, really enjoying it, having the options of the different kinds of rowing I'd want to do. So when I started, I was very much only interested in just getting in the boat every now and again and having a bit of a paddle. And quite quickly I realised I was actually interested in competing again, and the club was able to facilitate that for me. So it's meant not only have I been able to get back into rowing, which is a sport that I love, but I've also met a whole heap of wonderful people and have formed great new friendships. It's a really social and collegiate kind of club as well.
Okay, so I'm here, I'm talking to you guys. If I get interested, how do I find out more about Melbourne Argonauts?
Best thing to do is to go to the web and look up www.melbourneargonauts.com.au, and our website's full of all the information about the club, the backstory of the club, the history of the club. There's also lots of tabs about how you can find out about our next Learn to Row courses and how to make a start with rowing. It's all fairly straightforward in that regard. Thanks very much.
Hi, we're here talking to the Frontrunners, and I'd like you to introduce yourself to us.
Hi there, I'm Neil Giles and I'm the president of Melbourne Frontrunners.
Well, what is a Frontrunner?
Frontrunners are the LGBTIQ running and walking group of Melbourne.
And how long have Frontrunners been around in Melbourne?
So just in 2014 we celebrated our 10th anniversary as Melbourne Frontrunners, which was a great party that we had down on the park.
So 10 years. Tell me how long you've been involved and how the club has grown over those 10 years.
Okay, so I've been involved for the last 4 years, and the club's grown from a really small sort of handful of people, and now we're sort of into our 50 and 60 members, with average sort of running groups is 20 to 30 on a Saturday, so it's a great turnout.
So you mentioned both running and walking, so I would assume therefore if I wasn't a gung-ho runner, but do you mean actually the official walking, or just walking, casually?
No, just casually walking. We've got a number of people that bring their dogs along for the fun of it, so they go walking, or you can try and run if your dog's in the spirit to go running with them as well. So we have a big distance, a big range of people, and their speeds run from sort of quite slow running, a very slow jog, through to people who are running good quality marathon times.
Okay, so the club caters for people who are interested in the kind of social fitness, and then also people who are a bit more competitive, yeah?
Yeah, totally. I mean, probably we spend more time having coffee than we do actually running, which shows how social a club we are. But yeah, we have a huge range of people, and depending on what they want to deliver and what their outcomes are for the year, we try and sort of target them around that. And if they want to run the big distances and do things like Melbourne Marathon Festival, or just a half marathon, or 5K or 2K, then we try and work it through all through the year.
Okay, so you say you try and work them through. Does that mean there's kind of formalised training or support for newer members who need to get a little bit of structured training under their belt before they try a marathon?
Yeah, we try and bring on some coaches every now and again before the big events to try and give people the ability to try and do some work, but that all depends on obviously the finances that year and how much money we can raise during the year to pay for those coaching staff.
Alrighty. So you mentioned before you joined the club about 4 years ago. What prompted you to join the club and what has it meant for you being part of the Melbourne Frontrunners?
Yeah, so I was new to Melbourne back 4 years ago. I was fresh off the boat from the UK, and it was just somewhere to meet new people, and grow a circle of friends, and it's been a great opportunity to do that, and also try and stay fit during that period, but it's been a struggle.
Okay. Alrighty, you've got me a bit excited about the idea. How can I find out about the club? Where does the club run or walk?
So we run on Saturdays around the Botanical Gardens from the Observatory Gate. So that starts at 8:30 on a Saturday morning. But further information can be found from our website, which is melbournefrontrunners.com.au.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, thank you.